And now we move on to the 13th Nigerian Bar Association Section on Business Law Conference, which held in Lagos. Law Weekly was at that event, and we have some of the details of what transpired.
The 13th Nigerian Bar Association Section on Business Law Conference, which held in Lagos, brought together politicians, business leaders, and of course the leadership of the legal profession and other lawyers. The conference had the theme, Growth, Investment and Employment Beyond Rhetoric. In his keynote address, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, he highlights some of the challenges facing the economy and proffers some solutions.
That you have chosen this particular theme is evidence that you recognize, as I do, that our most serious challenge as a nation at this time is the challenge of building an economy that is sufficiently robust to spur innovation, create jobs, and ensure that all our citizens can live full lives of achievement and accomplishment. In the last 4 years, government has pursued a program of increased investment in transportation and power infrastructure. We have worked to increase year on year the amount of money set aside in the federal budget for construction of new roads and bridges, train lines and port maintenance. Many of the projects thus far invested in are ongoing, as such have not yet started to positively affect economic output. Laudable as they are, these investments are still insufficient to address our present and pressing infrastructure needs. Too many years of underinvestment in essential infrastructure has left us with significant deficits, estimated in some quarters to be in excess of $900 billion. This, coupled with the fact of reduced government income due to the global collapse in oil prices, and the need to service other obligations, means that even the increased allocations to infrastructure development still falls far short of what is required to build up to where we need to be and to prepare for the future. A more robust framework for public-private sector partnership in funding infrastructure development across the country is needed. The statutory and policy framework currently in place has proved unfit to drive cooperation and private sector investment to the extent that is required. Therefore, we will in this 9th National Assembly seek to review existing statutes and policy with a view to ensuring that what we have in place works for the purposes for which they were intended. A critical concern of mine, borne out by my interactions with many leaders in the private sector, is that we have a regulatory process that is so burdensome it has become a bane to businesses. Nobody knows what business needs more than business itself. Often in the public sector, we are playing catch-up, reacting to events after the worst effects of statute or policy have gone into effect to our collective detriment. This needs to change, as it amounts to closing the stable after the horse has bolted. So let me propose to you a permanent legislative working group on investment, business, and regulation. This working group will compose of legislators and business leaders supported by professional policy staff in the House of Representatives. The working group will provide a platform for ongoing interaction between the legislature and the private sector, a forum where we can look ahead at the challenges on the horizon, be made aware of potential policy failures before they become intractable challenges, and an arena where we can jointly develop new ideas and implement effective solutions.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, spoke among other things about how the state will key into the theme of the SBL conference.
I dare say that the 6 cardinal points which we have called the project themes for our government, which is THEMES, speaks to also the objective of this conference. The T there where we're talking about is traffic management and transportation. The E, which is health and environment. The H is health and environment. The first E, which is education and technology. The M is making Lagos a proper 21st century economy, which looks like power, housing, and infrastructure. The second E is talking about entertainment and tourism. And of course, the last S talks about security and governance. But much more important is to ask the question, when is IBA coming to Nigeria and to Lagos. As a government official, I have known as Commissioner for Staff how much money I sign year in, year out for judges, for lawyers, for House of Assembly members going to different IBA conferences right around the world. I'm aware that this year's conference is in South Korea, so why don't we bring it to South Nigeria? Why don't we bring it to South Lagos?
The president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Paul Usoro, says his administration is working on bringing the International Bar Association Conference to Nigeria with all of the investments and business opportunities that come with it. He also shares his ideas on some factors that can aid growth, investment, and employment.
I believe that security is a significant issue. You can't really have investments, you can't have growth where there's insecurity. You really must have security. I think that is a critical issue that the government needs to address. Now, the other one for us as lawyers is also governments paying more than lip service to rule of law, independence of the judiciary, independence of the legal profession, access to justice. Nobody invests where they are not sure that the rule of law prevails. And it's very important that the government should take note of that, and they must show by words and action that really the rule of law is important and that the independence of the judiciary is guaranteed. That's critical. Policy issues, you could have policy issues, and it's important to have policy. Implementation is key as well. But even with policy, if you do not have those other two things corrected, then it becomes more like it's words.
On the home stretch, let's bring you a recap of some of the top stories from the courtrooms.
We'll begin with the report that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has turned down the application filed by the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to access and inspect the server and data of smart card readers said to have been deployed by the Independent National Electoral Commission in the conduct of the February 23rd presidential election. The chairman of a 5-man tribunal, Justice Mohammed Garba, who read the unanimous ruling, held that it will be premature for the tribunal to delve into and resolve the contentious issue of the existence of a central server at INEC because parties have already joined issues in the main suit. In Lagos, the Federal High Court has fixed the rearrangement of the former governor of Ekiti State, Mr. Ayodele Fayose, for July the 2nd. The rearrangement was stalled on Friday, June the 28th, because the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission told the court that following the transfer of the case, there was no clear directive from the commission on the steps to take. The lead prosecutor, Rotimi Jacobs, senior advocate of Nigeria, was absent in court, but the counsel who represented the EFCC, Mr. Obafemi, urged the court to adjourn the case as the former governor is still being investigated for other matters. The defense team opposed the request for an adjournment. In his ruling, Justice Chukwujeku Aneke frowned at the request for an adjournment. The judge, however, said that since it was not the main prosecutor who appeared in the case, he would grant an adjournment in the interest of justice. In yet another case, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has rearranged a former Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory, Mrs. Jumoke Akinjide, and 2 chieftains of the People's Democratic Party in Oyo State before the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos. The trio of Akinjide, Senator Ayo Adeseun, who represented Oyo Central Senatorial District between 2011 and 2015, Mrs. Olayewaju Otiti, a chieftain of the party in Oyo State, were rearranged on a 650 million naira money laundering charge. At the proceedings before Justice Aneke, counsel to the EFCC Rotimi Oyedepo told the court that the prosecution had amended the charge against the defendants. He asked the court to quash the previous charge made against them and substitute same with a fresh 24-count amended charge. When the counsel read to the defendants, they all pleaded not guilty. The court then adjourned the case to the 30th of September for trial. And we round up with the report that Justice Rewan Aikawa has dismissed a preliminary objection filed by Justice Rita Ophelia Ajumogobia challenging her trial before the court. Justice Aikawa held that Justice Ajumogobia is no longer a judicial officer as she's been dismissed by the President on the recommendation of the National Judicial Council. He also held that the intention of the President was clearly expressed in a letter sent on the 6th of November 2018 to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The court therefore ruled that she can be tried on any criminal offense for which she is accused. He adjourned her trial to October the 24th and 25th.
And that's our program this week. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to catch the repeats on air or watch via our YouTube channel. I'm Shola Shieli. See you next week.